takes forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little dose of reality.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Fins Talk. I'm your host, Steve Malloy, and joining me tonight from the Ace Per Head, my special guest, Curtis. How you doing, Curtis?
Hopefully I'm not too special tonight. I had to say something stupid, but I'm doing great. You know, that intro you got is so cool. The graphic of your head, that is such a great intro, man.
Well, thank you.
I got to catch up to you, man. I got to do something cool like that. That's awesome. It's great to be with you, Steve. Really, I'm like a bloodhound when it comes to good people. And you're just a really easygoing, honest, honorable guy. So I'm very grateful to be on here. You're the first guy who ever invited me any of these Fin channels on. So I'm real grateful to be here, brother.
Oh man, no problem. Thank you, man. You're making me blush, man. But
just tell the facts, man. Just the facts.
No, I feel the same way about you, Curtis. That's why I have you on the show. You know, and I'd like to have you on more often. And but yeah, man, we got a lot to talk about. First off, what I want to do is ask you, what do you got going on at Ace Per Head?
Well, I got a really awesome guest coming up. I think probably like next week. It's going to be Steve Malloy. You should see this guy. He's really a good guy. We're going to have you on next week. Definitely. I think I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to start actually having more guests. I just got to get my organization together, but I got Al from 3 Yards Per Carry. We're going to do a podcast next week. And, I'm just going to keep covering the Dolphins. I'm going to try to expand out to the AFC East and do some other stuff. You know, I love the game of football, but I think it's going to be a hard season, and I love to cover the game. And sometimes I don't really didn't cover the film the way I wanted this year because I knew what it was going to be. And sitting here talking about Eichenberg turned his foot nice this week. And it's just like at a certain point, you just reach a conclusion and it gets very tough. I think this season will be very interesting, but I'm going to definitely try to cover some other teams that are, in the Dolphins wheelhouse just for relaxation because it's such a grind. I love this team. Mm-hmm. I remember crying over Marino in '84. I remember watching Riggins run. And I didn't understand. Yeah, Rogers. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought we were going to win. And all of a sudden I see this guy running. And then I was so young, I didn't know. I'm like, we lost. But then when Marino was in the Super Bowl, I was invested. And I remember crying about that. I remember being terribly sad when Dan retired. It was like a family member died. I love this team. I just want to see them win. My first book report was on Larry Zonk. I just want this team to win. Oh yeah,
Larry Zonk.
Oh yeah, they had the whole NFL library, and I was a Dolphins fan. I was in the Bob Greasy fan club. I thought he was cool with the big glasses. I was like, this guy.
Yeah.
So I just want my team to win, brother.
Yeah, same here, man. Larry Zonka was my favorite Dolphin fan of all time. He
such
really
a
was.
Man.
Yeah, I loved him. But I want to thank everybody that's in the chat tonight. I appreciate you for joining. I see you, DSG Label, brother. I see you there, man. Appreciate you for joining tonight. If wherever platform you're at, whether you're on X, Facebook, or whatever, come over here and join the chat on YouTube, on Fins Talk Sports Network, Real Talk Fins Talk. Hit that subscribe button. There's a bell down there. You can hit that subscribe button. Then share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, we may not always agree about everything Dolphins, but there's one thing we do agree on. We are all Dolphins.
That's right, brother. That's right, man. You're so smooth with that marketing, man. I like that. I gotta start taking a bit of that, man. That's a thing, Steve. You know, I like that's one of the things. When we first met, we agreed on a lot of stuff, but there was some core stuff that we had some disagreement on. But it was like,
right,
okay, it's just a disagreement. Is, you know, you have your opinion, I have mine. We'll figure it out. We'll see what the truth is. And I think that's key. You know, they put us in these us in these like ideological gulags as Dolphin fans. You know, 2 is the worst, 2 is the best. You know, whatever the gulag is, you know, Flores ate babies in the basement. You know, it's like, and they separate you. And then when they separate you, then they start feeding you the garbage. So I think it's great that I think what's great what you do. You know, I like that.
Absolutely conquer and divide, right? That's what they do. But anyway, I got you on here for a specific reason, Curtis. I love your evals.
Talk about my nice hair, my flowing locks. They're good, man. I'm telling you.
You and I we match, man. Look at that.
Oh, man.
Anyway, yeah. So I got you on here for a specific reason. Number one, I love your evals. I think you're probably the best in the business in any Dolphins community or podcast, whatever you want to call it. You do a thorough analysis, breakdown. You got all the data. You got everything there. You do a deep dive into that stuff, and that's why I got you on here. And I put you on here too because people need to know the truth, man. They need to know what's really going on with this organization. And there's a lot of stuff out there that's just not factual. It's not true. Some of it is just straight up lies, and manipulations and things like that.
Dolphins media department is what they do.
Yeah, I mean that's what their job is, right? They're experts at it. So here's the deal, man. I want to know. And we had this end of the year press conference with, I called them the Three Stooges, and that includes Tua. I know you don't like that, but anyway, I include Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, and Tua Tagovailoa. I call them the Three Stooges. But regardless of that, we're not going to talk about Tua today. We're talking about Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, and I want to get your take on this final press media conference between McDaniel and Greer. What did you get out of that?
You got like a audio sound of a toilet flushing? It's so bad. I know that, you told me you were in the military and you worked in PSYOPs and all that stuff. That's been something I've been very involved with as far as studies and understanding. I grew up with an alcoholic and drugs and stuff like that. So I always had to find out if someone was lying. And I never liked lies. I never liked propaganda. And to me, smelling out fake people, as I said at the beginning, is the key for me. And I did a Suit Hustle documentary in 2021. And I talked about the Dolphins were a den of snakes. And Chris Greer is I'm sure he's a great, but I'm sure he's a good guy. I'm sure he's a good family man, all the stuff. But the man has low character. He's dishonest. He'll do anything to keep his job, and he'll sacrifice anybody. And that's the key thing that I got from. And he's a master of twisting words, adjusting perspectives and optics. And when you watch him, he threw everybody under the bus. Really, never took ownership on everything. He distributed every blame to somebody else. And the most notable part for me was when he said, we have to rebuild just like we did a couple of years ago with Austin Jackson and Hunt and Kinley. And he never mentioned Eichenberg. And he did it on purpose because he knew he knew that everybody would immediately cringe at that. And so he purposely deflected the reality. And Kinley himself was 2 fourth-round picks and was out of the league in 2 years. But that was less distasteful. He needed a third because, 3 points is a trend line. So he needed to put 3 guys up there to make it sound like he was doing something. And he didn't put up Eichenberg. And that's the whole tenor of who he is. He's a low character person. He's a dishonorable guy. He's very insecure, and his insecurities drive his pride and hubris. So he just becomes blind to obvious things. And you can't win with this guy. I've been saying that since 2021. It just so, I mean, even for a GM who understands that he's here to serve the fan base, for him to come out and make fun of fans on an obvious issue like the O-line depth, then to come back the next year, double down and push the rhetoric from him and then have McDaniel push it, just shows who he is. He's not a guy of accountability. He's not a guy that's here to really win. He's here to keep his job and to, bend to the wishes of Ross. And I can go on for that for several hours as examples. But I think I think even the people who were Greer fans are now at a point of like, oh man, it's hard to unsee that, it's really hard. It's the elephant in the room with sparks shooting out its behind. You just can't take your eyes off of it.
Yep. Yeah.
And then,
absolutely.
And I think this is with McDaniel too. And it goes back to McDaniel, Tua, Flores, all these guys, they're brought in. I did a joke a couple of years ago. I think I put him on in a video. He's the guy that said he takes a beauty queen and has her walk down the runway and throws a bucket of crap on her. Excuse my French. And then he says, "Shake your money maker." And then when she doesn't get an applause, he starts saying, "What? You can't do the job?" And he sacrifices everybody. And he makes bad choices. Like, how does he choose Holland and Ramsey and Hill over like Van Ginkel, even Wilkins? He sets everybody up to fail, and then they look stupid. And, you can say what you want about Tua, but they knew what his injury history was. How do you not set this kid up, force him in 2020? It wasn't Flores that put him in. They forced him in. How do you not get him an offensive line? How do you not have a run game? How do you develop this like Marino pass happy offense for a guy who's not capable of doing that? I mean, he is to a certain degree. And then you throw him under the bus. Well, the big thing was about the quarterback being out 6 games. Well, if that was the case, do like Don Shula did, get a capable backup, have a quality team, and you can navigate your way through. But he's just not a good person. I really don't like him. I don't like him. And I don't really remember thinking that much of anybody that in the Dolphins history. A little bit of Saban, but there's just something off with him. So.
Yeah. And just like you say, he's a big deceiver. He's a flat out liar because number one, let me give you an example. However anybody feels about Tua Tagovailoa, it doesn't matter. But the point of the matter is he's talking about, well, we were going to bring in a backup, really good backup and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't want to waste those compensatory picks and, the finances. And
such a load of garbage. We have $53 million in dead cap because he can't do his job. That's why you can't.
Exactly. And that's the thing is okay. They had more monies last year. They don't have anything this year. So how is he going to get a good backup?
He's a liar. It doesn't matter.
And backups are not going to be peanuts, man. But good backups are going to be $10, $15 million a year.
Oh yeah. The secondary problem is then you got to get a guy who either processes ultra quick, or throws very quick, or soup this offensive lineup to the next level. It's
not happening. It's not happening. And then the other points you brought up is about the O-line, and everything, and how he mocked all the fans with well, you guys are worried about the O-line more than we are. Now all of a sudden this year he's like, it's time that we have to invest in the O-line because we got a lot of old players. You're investing because you got old players? How about you're investing? How about you're investing because you got injury-prone players? How about investing because you have 2 lousy guards? How about that? How about you just have a crummy offensive line?
He can't
say that.
How about
investing that way?
Because he has to admit he screwed up. So it's not his fault they got old. Nothing's ever his fault. He's the worst kind of leadership. A leader has got to be able to own up. A leader has got to be able to want to say, that's, you say whatever you want about Flores, but every time there's a problem, he says, we got to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was just a clown show. That's the way I
So,
see it. It was just a clown
McDaniel's
show.
got no control.
No, and that's another that's the next person I wanted to get your take. What's your take on Mike McDaniel as a head coach and also not giving up his play calling duties? How do you feel about that?
Well, for me, it's always about context. So you heard Chris Greer said, well, we brought in McDaniel and he changed the locker room or whatever and brought excitement, and then we used that capital to draft free agents. And listen, we had a backroom deal to get Peyton and Brady. We were slithering our way in the back room. We got a hand caught in a cookie jar. And then when we went out looking for people, no one of any sort wanted to even be here. And so we had to go down to plan C or D to get McDaniel. And I'm sure they used all kind of algorithms and analytics to find out, well, he's a funny guy. He's charismatic. We could sell this. They couldn't get anybody. So they got McDaniel. If there's a quote, he said, why do you take it? He's like, well, I think it was Shanahan said, you never know when you're going to get that kind of money again. You're going to get the offer again. So it was like, they brought this guy in here. They threw everything at the wall so they could raise ticket prices the next year. And they created this offense because they knew he couldn't game plan. He couldn't adjust in the game. So they had scheme matchups. And so this is what this whole thing's about. They knew, they're very clear on what it was. This kid, young guy, young man, he was just not capable. He was a run game coordinator in the booth. And then you bring him in and make him OC and HC. And then you ask him to win immediately. It's a scam. And I feel bad for him. I think he's a nice guy. I don't think he's a capable guy. He's not a guy that my coaches and everybody that I've ever cared about as far as in the coaching industry, they could do two things. They'd slap you in the head and curse you out and then give you a hug. And you got both. You got the carrot and you got the stick. There's different degrees of balance of the carrot and the stick, but you need both. And McDaniel, when I watched him, I forgot what game it was. They were like laughing. Tyreek Hill and Waddle on the sidelines. He went over and he was like, and he did like a shuffle off, like it was like some comic show. He's not capable. He's not. And it doesn't matter if he calls or he doesn't call. And he doesn't want to give up the calls. It's the same reason Flores knew he was on the way out and he was trying to hold on to his control. And so if he takes away, say he gives it to Smith and he starts making play calls, then all it's going to be is, we don't need McDaniel. Let's get Smith. He could be the new head coach. All they do is set you up for failure and get greased the skids with the next guy. So the fans go, that's the guy, and it's going to be Weaver or the next. So he knows he's on his way out. He's very clear on that. And so he's going to keep calling plays. So he gets the experience. He has the control and he goes out his way. It's obvious.
Yeah, it's 100%. I agree with you. I mean, if you take away the play calling for McDaniel, that's his identity right now. That's it. That's all he's got.
That's it.
Because in my opinion, I don't know how you feel, Curtis, and I think there's a lot going on in the back that we don't know about. Number one, I think he's lost the locker room.
Oh, definitely.
Nobody respects him,
No.
and I mean, players.
And the loss of Campbell is going to kill them.
Oh man, yeah, Campbell. I would love to have Campbell back. I hope he comes back. Not only
he's not coming back here. There's no way he's coming back here. 100%.
Man,
he knows what this place is about. If he's going to come back, he's not going to come back to this show. He's going to go to some place that can win. He's really close to Weaver, and he wanted to help Weaver out, and he did, and he thought there was something there. And then he found out what's going on in the back. That's why he said we'll be really in good contention if he comes back. No, you're not. He is not coming back 1,000%.
I agree with you 100%. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. If you're new to the show, please hit that bell down there. Subscribe, share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors. I see Finn Faithful Podcast is in here. Appreciate you, George. George on Finn Faithful Podcast got a great show. He's got a lot of great guests on there. I'm one of them. But he does have a lot. He really does have a lot of great guests on there. And I think you'll enjoy the show. He's straight up, honest guy, nice guy, tell you the truth. you got to catch his show as well.
I will.
There's other than Ace Burhead, you got to catch.
I'll make sure you get the $15 for every time you.
There you go. There you go. I'll be.
Hey, I see somebody that said, "Where do you attack a low-fi? Where do you attack it too high?" Well, it depends on the too high. If it's cover 2 or if it's man too high, it depends. But you do attack the mid outs, and so that's one thing that Tua can't do. But there's a lot of other ways to attack it too high. So if it's too high zone, you want to make sure that you got some kind of run game. And it's something I've been talking about is what happens. It doesn't really matter for us because Tua's best area is the middle of the field. And so they know we can't run inside. So they drop the linebackers at 5 and 6 yards at high leverage. And it shuts everything down because when you're at 5 and 6 yards, you can also attack the sidelines. So man and zone, it changed a little bit. You can attack by, sending like three guys deep on flies, but you can also attack the middle because if you're running play action, legitimate play action, and you're under center, which we don't do, you can attack. There's a lot of areas to attack. The problem is that our menu is so scant because we can't go under center because the front will get blown up and 2 will get thrown into tomorrow. And then we can't block long enough and we can't run inside. And so that's what they did. If you go back to the Broncos game, we had all the success in 23, and then we started having success in 22 and then 23. But the Broncos played pinch. They were inside with the edges, and then we would crack down on that. Would open everything up, and it would open up the pocket post we run and the edge runs. But then after that game, the DC book changed. They started bringing those edge guys out wide and leaving the DIs naked and started dropping those linebackers. And so it's basically a shell coverage. And they know what we can do is throw to the edges, run to the edges, and then throw the pocket posts. And we can't hit because of 2 of the deep outs. And so it's a little bit more than just Tua's lack of arm strength. It's basically about the O-line. That's where it all starts, So I would say I think that's the key. You got to run when teams come out in nickels and they're playing high leverage. You run inside. You've got to hit that A and B gap and move guys out because if they play their leverage and 6 technique with those edges guys out, that means you have all that space. You have 5 guys with 2 D linemen and then 2 guys on the outside and 5 guys deep. That is easy. It's supposed to be 3-4 yards rush. And then we don't blitz. We don't get blitzed. So it really starts in that interior, that A and B gap. And McDaniel kind of mentioned that. I almost like he was shocked. That was kind of like, that was one of the worst things for me. He's like, they were sitting it too high. And like, didn't you, everybody knew it. It's so crazy. So,
yeah. And you're right. When I was at the Houston game and I was sitting pretty good. I was sitting like 25, 30 rows up. So I had some really good seats on about the 20, 25 yard line. Wow. And when I was watching the O-line, I was watching the play develop the whole bit. And man, I'm telling you, there was a lot, like you said, Curtis, there was a lot of Tyreek was open on the outside many times. That outside was open. And I hate to say this, but I think it's a fact. Tua is limited in his arm strength. He could he get the ball down there? Sure, but it's going to take longer than it should. And then, like McDaniel said, he doesn't want to throw it into double coverage or anything like that because Tua doesn't have the arm strength, the velocity to throw it there, to get it there like a bullet in a minute or two. Because I saw many times there was folks open all over on the field on the outside, but what did he do? He didn't even look to the outside. He looked right to his check down or a bubble screen, behind the line of scrimmage. That's what
there's a little bit that goes in. There's a little bit that goes into that though.
Right.
I want to say hi to my man, Cody, Mr. Success. What's going on, brother?
Mr. Success. How you doing, brother? And I want to welcome everybody that's in the show. I see Lo-Fi's in here as well. Haven't seen you in a while, brother. I know you mentioned you hadn't seen me in a while. Well, you haven't seen me in a while because you haven't been in here in a while. But you got to come on this. You got to come in the chat more often, my friend. But anyway, go ahead, Curtis. I'm sorry.
No worries, sweat it. I mean, you're right that at about like 10 to 12 yards to like 18 yards, those outs, deep comebacks, all that stuff. That's the space. If they're in zone, if they're in man, maybe not so much. And he doesn't have the arm, and they know that. They go through the route tree, and they're like, okay, we could check that off with Tua. He can't. But you also Jimmy G couldn't throw it. Breeze was iffy on that. So what you have to do is have the counters. So even simple things we used to do is where were the play action rollouts?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that, Curtis. With like a rollout, like the play action rollouts, or maybe you get a quarterback there. Now that we know that Tua's wrapped up in bubble wrap, and Chris Greer is not going to allow him to make plays, which I don't blame Tua for making those plays, for his team.
It's football.
I mean, they were just routine plays. But what I'm saying is if we had a quarterback that was a little more mobile than Tua, maybe he could roll out and create off script. You think that would open up those lanes or bring those safeties up, more as opposed to?
Yeah. That's the thing is, so if you go through your checklist, he can't throw the deep outs or the deep comebacks. He's not going to get on the run and kill you on the ground. They know that they're trying to restrict him as far as contact. But then you also know that you can play high leverage with your box, and you could play your cover too, and there's no run game, and you're still going to get pressure in 2.35 seconds at a consistent enough basis. And so you got to remember the internal clock inside his head is based on what he knows the protection is going to be. It's also drilled into him by McDaniel. Yeah. So this whole, and I think that's kind of some of the misnomers. People think that this quick throw game is just for Tua. It's not. It's been to mask Chris Greer's terrible offensive line, because if Tua can't really throw, if Tua doesn't really have a great arm and he's not great at reading, then the number one thing you want to give him is better protection and more time to process. But that time's never going to be there. So there's a lot of ways to mitigate with Tua. There's a lot of things. Simple. If you put Tua under center, 12 personnel, and you had legitimate run game and play action, you could still use that quick release on play actions over the middle with the tight ends, or you could sit there, drop back and go to 2.3, 2.5, have route. Where's the route combinations? Where's the slants? You go back and you watch McDaniels with the Patriots with Brady, and he, be 3rd and 4, and he'd have two guys, an over under for the first down at 5 yards. Where is that stuff? But you remember, you can't even get to the line of scrimmage to call audibles. You can't. I mean, anybody can get there and call a run, a switch from a run to pass, and that's not there. None of this stuff is there. And part of that is because McDaniel then would have to do more complicated game plans. He would have to, create a much deeper playbook, and he'd have to be more involved in the adjustments, and he's not capable. So there's a lot of stuff in this soup.
Yeah. This was Mr. Success says, I dream of conventional offense, put the quarterback under center, less motions, more audibles, and run some inside zone. Steal Buffalo and KC's playbook, simple and balanced. Mr. McSuccess, I agree 100%, but you're not going to get that out of this offense. Not with McDaniel at the helm as an offensive play caller and Chris Greer as the GM with this terrible offensive line. It's not going to happen. It's just not.
No, because it's all based on that. It's the whole new NFL cycle is pass balance. I talked about that about 3 years ago. It was very clear. And pass balance, and this is why Chris Greer screwed up with Hunt and screwed up with Wilkins. He didn't see the positional rise because he didn't understand the league was moving to pass balance. And in pass balance, interior offensive linemen and DIs are higher value. And so he missed all that. He missed it from an offensive philosophical level, but he also missed it from positional level. And so this is why we're so screwed. And even now we're pinned with Brewer, and he will cause a lot of problems getting past balance. He is so pigeonholed, and maybe I'm wrong. A lot of people like him, but I think he's totally pigeonholed into what we got, outside zone and finesse style football. So we got a lot of issues.
So Curtis, let me ask you this then. Since we're on the topic of the O-line and stuff like that. What's the fix?
The fix is I wonder if the whole goal for the season is to have a crappy season and tank, and either Stephen Ross is going to hand off a high draft pick to his daughter, or he's going to sell the team. Because I think you could. There's ways to mitigate everything, but you'd have to reboot. Ramsey wants to kind of get out of here. He's getting older. He's putting his foot in the ground in something. Hill is a disaster. You've got to trade him. You look at your roster, and I went over, it's like 35 guys, and there's like maybe 8 or 9 guys, 10 guys that are real guys. And then most of your stuff is at receiver. You got Washington, you got Waddle, and you got Hill. But your offensive line needs total building. You need a two-way go tight end. Your running backs are good. I like your running backs. But then on defense, you got no DI. You're not really certain about your edge. I like Chubb, but is Phillips going to be ready? Linebackers, I like Brooks, but you need another linebacker. You got no safeties. Fuller's been injured all season. Ramsey, he's getting older, so you're going to need some more cornerback help. And again, as I said, you need 2 safeties plus depth. It's not just starting on O-line, and you're broke. So there's a way forward, but the way forward should have been fire everybody, start gutting this team to the core this year, and then get yourself ready for 26. Now, though, it's going to be 27 before we're ready to like kind of start turning our heads up if we get the right people in. But there's things you can do. I mean, Paul, I like Paul. I don't love him yet. I like him. There's flaws to his game, but I think he could fix it. I like that. Jackson's terrible. He's always injured. He's way overpriced. He's not very good. They're not bringing Eichenberg. I don't think they can do that from a public standpoint. So that's an addition by subtraction.
Oh my God! If they bring him back,
oh, they can't now. They can't. There's no way.
You know, yeah, I think he is too. How about Robert Jones?
Well, if you were in a pass balance system, he'd be a guy you would have as a backup as your right guard, and you'd roll pass protection to him. He can move guys. Some of our best runs came off him, but he's just not a mover. He's got semi-knock knees, and he has trouble in space, and we make him get to the second level. We give very complicated blocking system. And, you know, he's not great, but he could be a player for you. But I don't think they bring him back. If they're going to double down to their fun ball system, you don't bring him back. If they're going to somehow go to pass balance, then you can bring him back on a cheap as a guy. But, you know, you need 2 guards. Wynn's terrible. I still am amazed at the evaluations from people on Wynn. You know, he's better than Eichenberg. I think it's like, you know, but so you've got Paul and Brewer, but Brewer's a little bit of a problem. You're going to be stuck with Jackson. I guess you can use him as a body, but you need 2 starting guards, and you need about 2 more guys at a quality depth, because Jackson will probably go down again.
Yeah, I'm afraid
but
so.
If you could build that offensive line out, you got the running backs, but you need a tight end. You need a real tight end. You got to dump Smythe. Julian Hill, he's a physical freak, but he's a 4th tight end. He's not.
Yeah,
he's not a second.
So, yeah, and I like John O. Smith, but he's not an all-around tight end.
No,
you know,
he's a great piece.
He's a good piece, good pass catching tight end. But as you say, we definitely need a tight end, all-around tight end, somebody that can block, can catch, to do whatever is called for him for a tight end position. So I agree with you on that, the tight end. And people give Brewer too much credit, man.
Way too much.
Way too much. He was bullied a lot this year. I mean, now don't get me wrong, he's made some nice blocks. He's good out in space and stuff like that. But that's the thing, man. We're in purgatory, man. It's like,
but not really though. No, because you have to think of it this way. And this is the silver lining. All the skeletons are out. Well, the key ones. No one's going to sit here and tell you McDaniel's a genius. No one's going to sit here and tell you Tua is certainly the guy. No one's going to tell you Greer is 4D chess cooking. And no one's going to tell you that Ross is a good owner. And so when you have that revelation, then you have opportunity. You had to have that. And that's why I invested so much over the last 3 years to be that bad guy, because it was the key that nothing will happen with this crew. And it's not Tua. If you fixate on Tua, then you're missing the point. The point is we have a den of snakes. And so we have an opportunity, because if we flatline and totally wet the bed, then Ross is going to be forced to do something. Hand the team off to his daughter, sell the team, or totally change, because the revolt will grow. And so we're at a very good point, but the pain's not done yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I meant by we're in purgatory is because I guess it's the wrong word. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I mean, it's going to be up to McDaniel. Is McDaniel going to go to a pass balance offense, or is he going to do more of the same? Now, if he goes to a pass balance offense, how is that going to look as far as offensive line? What kind of skill sets are we looking for? Or if he continues to play this timing-based offense, right? Is he going to what are the pieces going to look like, as far as the offensive line goes? What is that skill set going to look like?
Well, the thing is, I think McDaniel would be better off with a pass balance. He's a run game coordinator, and that's why Greer couldn't have built that way and raise ticket prices in 23. He had to get the hot flash, because remember, Ross was a pariah for losing draft capital. There was the whole thing divided between the Tua and not Tua, Flores and not Flores. They had to put perfume on. That's why they created the media op of McDaniel flying in. I'm going to fix you, Tua. And they used the emotionalism of Tua and McDaniel's personality. And then they brought in the high talent and the flashy offense to cover his flaws as an OC, and then to sell so they could sell tickets. So, but if they had built a real offensive line and run game, McDaniel might have developed this. I still don't like his personality as far as being the friendly guy. But the thing is, Brewer, you would have to flank him with very good guards to hide his strength deficiency. Because once you get into the red zone, he gets bullied. And if you're in pass balance, look at the Detroit Lions. They're on the center like 80% of the time or something, 70, 80% of the time in the red zone. And when you're under center, the key is the linebackers, because you have your front and then you have your secondary, but it's all tied together by the linebackers. So you've got to get those linebackers to do what you want them to do. And when you're under center and you snap that football first, they can't really see you because you're under center, and then the lineman steps up and they've got to pause and read and react. But then when you turn your back in your play actions or a handoff or anything, they've got to watch to see where the ball is. But if you're a shotgun and pistol, it's a clear view. They can locate the ball and make their reactions much quicker. So getting Tua under center is a big piece of the puzzle. And I think he'd be very effective on it. But Brewer is going to compromise that unless you get two extremely good guards. And I don't know how you do that in one season being broke. So you've got to invest. I mean, it's difficult because they love Brewer. And maybe if you got two elite guards, he could do it. But you need to start at your center position. Connor was the perfect center. And he's not playing anymore. And he's damaged, but he's a guy who's physical enough and pass block enough. And then he could bring that weight, that cement to anybody. He didn't, like I talked about it last year with Brewer, he gets attached. So we like to do doubles. So, he'll double with somebody, especially Eichenberg. And he's not really that strong. So he's got to really lean into it. And once he over leans, he stays attached to that block too long and he can't get to the second level. And so you need a guy who doesn't need to commit that much. So it really should start at center, but it's not going to. So you're going to have to get, but then, they're talking about tackle. Tackle's the only spot that's really of like good value at 13. But then what do you do with Jackson? What do you do with Paul? People say move Jackson aside. Forget about that.
No. They tried that. They've already tried that.
Oh, wait, my man, Christopher Jones. Chris, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, Christopher has had a comment here. If you he said it isn't just people are ranking Brewer high. Those who rate players rate him high. His end of year grade was a 73. That goes down as an A. if you oppose that, then you're saying PFF has it wrong. What do you say
Well,
to that?
no. What I'm saying is PFF lacks context. So PFF is grading you on your assignments. So if you look at Brewer, he had half the true pass set blocking of any other center in the league. If you look at Brewer, he threw the fastest time in the league. If you look at Brewer, most of his pass blocking assignments were to get to the second level, which is what he's best at. But ultimately, we couldn't score. And so PFF, it's not PF. In order to go to PFF, you have to deal with context stats. So like their true pass set grades. But even that, you can't really do that because we throw at 2.04 seconds, which is totally insane. And we threw 22% screens. So it's not that PFF's wrong. It's just they lack context. But you'll notice that he was graded really, really high. And then at the end of the season, his grading went from like 2 to 9 because then he started going in non-conducive environments and he had to play outside the strengths of his skill set. So it's that, so you could take it for what you want. Go watch him when he's man on man and you watch him get blown up. You get him driven back. And so can you live without that? Not in the red zone when he has to pass for long periods of time. If you go to his tape, you'll watch and you'll see when there's stunts, he gets attached inside and he leaves the open for stunts. He left it open many, many times. But we threw so little and we threw so quick that the pressure really didn't get there. But if he was in a regular offense like he was with the Titans, how did he grade out in the Titans? Much differently. But what was the Titans' offense? It was probably about 0.3 second quicker clean time, and they ran the football more. And they were more successful. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not that, you can take it for what you want. You can believe what you want. It will shake out. But that would be my response.
Yeah. And to be fair with the PFF grades, stuff like that, I kind of like them. I don't take it as a gospel, but there, and if you get the premium in a PFF, which I don't know if you have or not, Curtis, you have premium PFF, it goes in depth on everything you're saying. It gives more context. So what you see, the final result, that's 73. But if you go inside and into the premium level, it changes everything.
But you also have to remember too,
and the eye test always works.
Yeah, and you also have to remember too that PFF, most of the grades that people use with PFF is the overall, which is the least context. Because
that's what I'm saying.
When they set those weights for that grade, they'll say they grade pass blocking more important than run blocking. But if you're on the Titans with Derrick Henry, run blocking is more important than pass blocking, but they don't set that kind of context. So what you'll get is people who will just use the overall grade and they'll just use that and say, oh, no, they're totally crazy. They're totally wrong. In some ways they are a little bit here or there, but if you actually go in the back, you can see they have individual blocking assignments over 2.5 seconds, under 2 seconds. Is it true pass set? Is it not? Gap and zone is this, but most people don't use that. And then so PFF has kind of created its own curse because then people look at it and say, how is it that? So it's not that they're wrong or whatever. I find that their skill set grades are very accurate. If you go check the pass blocking, the run blocking, you'll see it's pretty accurate. But then again, you have to add the context. How long are they throwing? We have a unique environment throwing this fast. And so that's not you. I created me and Scott, we created a whole set of contextual stats to add all the stuff in, and the grade's really good. I'm going to try to get to that. I was supposed to get it out this season, but I never did. But you got to add context. There's so much context. How much play action are you using? How many screens are you throwing? How many extra guys are you keeping into block? All this stuff, but no one really factors that in except for me, which I'm going to unveil soon. Me and Scott. Scott was an amazing partner with this thing. So I kind of agree and kind of disagree, Chris.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is if we go to a pass balance offense, as opposed to what we've been doing, we've been doing, the offensive line is going to have to take on a whole new look, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have to get other pieces other than what we have now.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Jackson can't cut it.
Right.
Paul would actually be better in it. If you watch him, he's not so hot on the move. A lot of the move stuff we like to do. He's got some flaws, but he's big enough. I like him. I think he can develop. I think he'd be better in a pass balance.
Yeah. He's big enough and strong enough where where those the where he's lacking in technique, he makes up with his strength and his size and everything.
Yeah, his problem is he's not mobile enough. Sometimes he gets beat on
Yeah,
on a double move, and he's a little
right.
too tall, and so sometimes he loses leverage. But I think he's a
Mhm.
guy that the problem is Jackson can't move anybody, and Jackson can't really block, and Jackson's got health issues, and Jackson's got technique issues. And so if we go to
Yeah,
pass balance, you're going to expect these guys to block longer, and it'll expose him more.
yeah. See, and that's why I don't think they're going to make the necessary changes and go to a pass balance offense. I just don't see it happening with Mike McDaniel. And also you remember Mike McDaniel in an interview, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, I don't remember now, where he said that he wanted Tua to have more weapons, that the O-line was fine. Now, do you think that's a Chris Greer doing, or do you think that's a McDaniel doing? Because I've heard two sides of the story. One, I've heard some people say, well, McDaniel's the one that has the final say on the offensive line, or the offense as a whole is what he wants to do.
No,
And then I've heard Chris Greer has that say. I don't know. What do you think?
no, it's definitely Chris Greer, but McDaniel has his own culpability. Like I banged the table no end for Zach Tom. It was like the easiest eval, the easiest roll of dice in the third or fourth round. He was in interviews with us, and then McDaniel came out and said, "I banged the table and begged. I don't know, he begged, but like I asked Chris Greer, you got to draft easy in the fourth round." So Greer has the final say. He does listen. But he's had the same build for a long time. He's always valued receivers. He's always valued skills. He's always valued pass rushers. It's the same as the same as the same. And he can't draft offensive linemen. So I think McDaniel, Greer's been here 24 years. Are you telling me that Flores, who was a rookie, came in here and he took control? Like the media lied, or they were told lies and spread it. He was in charge. He was running everything. And Chris Greer was just a nice guy doing what he was. He was here for 24 years. You can't get rid of him now. You're telling me that he was being bullied? I mean, is that such an insane statement? You think Mike McDaniel came in here and he was telling Chris Greer, I need – this is like a joke. It's a fantasy. It's a total fake narrative.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I it makes me laugh when people say, well, McDaniel, he's the one who made, no, bull crap. He was he never had a coaching job in his whole career as far as head coach.
He's going to come in here and he's going to bully Chris Greer 24 years.
He's a run game coordinator, never played, never play called in his career. And all of a sudden he's going to tell Chris Greer what he wants. No, I don't think so.
Hey, the same down here. I agree. Tight end. I think tight end might be the right move at 13. I think.
Yeah.
Unless you want to get off tight end.
I wanted tight end last year. But I wanted an all-around tight end. I didn't want a John O. Smith. I mean, it's great we got John O. Smith, and he was, he did really great for us this year. But I want an all-around tight end, someone that can be in there, all 3 downs or 4 downs.
That can help you with your pass balance. That can go a long way.
Yeah, exactly. 100%, man. 100%.
Because you can find, you don't. The reality is, you want to make sure the 13 hits, and unless you want to get off Jackson, you're running a risk, because then you're going to have to take this tackle and put him inside, and you don't know how that's going to play out. Or you're going to put Jackson inside. That's not going to work.
No, he's already done that. He's already played inside.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
But the tight end, if you can get a tight end at 13, or even better, trade back, because it's a deep tight end draft, and get some ammo and get your tight end, and then the key is finding linemen in that second's good, but third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth round. You can find guards there. You can find guys. You're going to need a DI. I think they need a DI big time, because I like Sela, but he's not really good at the 0. Benito Jones is terrible. He's not. I don't think he's on a roster. So you need a DI, you need a tight end, and you need like 2 guards.
Yeah. Well,
I think a good front office could get most of that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that goes. But So let's shift gears a little bit. We've kind of beat the offensive line to death. Let's talk about. Oh, I know what. There's two things I wanted to ask you. First thing is, what do you think about taking a wide receiver at 13 in the draft? A big wide receiver. That wouldn't. Now you don't think that would make a difference in our?
No, look. We drafted Waddle with 2 first-round draft picks, and then the Lions got Amon-Ra in like the 4th or 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You're invested in Waddle, 2 first-round draft picks and $20 million, which is a nice contract. The tight end is way more valuable than the receiver if you've got a Waddle. And you got Washington. You've got your little fast guy. You've got the slot guy. Try to find a receiver later on. Stop, tight end will help you in your protection, and tight end will help you in your receiving game.
Yeah, blocking and receiving. You're right. Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. I could definitely see that. It's going to be interesting.
Because you could find look at all the receivers that are out there that are found late. I mean, even look at the 2 receivers with Vikings, Jefferson and Yellowkid. Those were all like late first-round picks.
True.
Only Greer needs to spend 2 first-round picks on Waddle. He could have got Smith with a little trade up like the Eagles did, and he would have had still another first-round pick. He just can't draft.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally he'll hit something, but not much. I mean, especially now that Holland is downhill. Look at his track record.
Yeah.
He's got Bajay.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Tyreek Hill. Now he's been taking a lot of heat lately. Look, he's got character issues. Let's face it. Okay. Would I make him the captain of this Miami Dolphins football team? No, I wouldn't. And he quit on us in the 3rd quarter. Okay. Like the 3rd quarter and 2 or 3 minutes left or something. He quit on us. Okay. I get it. We weren't going to the playoffs. He probably knew that already. He made a business decision. He had been injured. Supposedly he's been playing through a broken wrist all year, but you can't believe half of what this guy says. But there's one thing I got to have his 6 on. I got to back him up a little bit on. A lot of people have been complaining and moaning and everything about, he drops balls. He's been dropping a lot of balls. He can't catch, blah, blah, blah. And they're giving him that heat. Well, if you go and you look at and I did, who has the most drop balls as wide receivers for this past year, right? Or this year, he's like 27th. He's only dropped 3 catchable balls. Now that's the key. Catchable balls all year. Jefferson had more drops than he had. He had like 10 or 12. Okay. I think it was Jefferson or Chase. I got him mixed up. But anyway, you get my point. He was like ranked 27th. So for all those folks that are saying he drops balls and all that, did anybody watch the last few games that were on TV where Chase dropped a bunch of balls for Burrow? Okay, balls are dropped all the time. You can't put that. And then folks say, well, they didn't. He didn't play very much this year. He's always off the field, and they didn't throw to him enough. He was the wide receiver that had the most targets this year on our team.
What was his target?
I think it was like 120 or 130, somewhere in there. Now, I grant you, he's had 160, 170 in the past. But 120, 130 targets is pretty damn good compared to you had a Jono Smith that was catching the balls, and then you add in Achane and Waddle. They didn't take that many balls away from him this year, And then for him not playing, he didn't get a lot of snaps. He had his highest snap count he's ever had.
I didn't know that.
This year.
That's good news. That's good information.
Yeah, I mean, check it out. I mean, so I got to back him up on that. But now all the other stuff, the character issues and quitting on the team and being a captain, no, that's a no-no for me. That's not leadership. Immediately when he got arrested, the first game of the season when he got arrested, Mike McDaniel should have taken that captain
Oh
Big C
yeah.
away from right there from the start.
But they rounded up the wagons around him and protected him.
There you go.
You know,
And that's why this guy acts the way he does.
Oh yeah,
he
he's
does
been
the things he
entitled.
does.
He's been entitled forever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I was going over, I think it was like the 2006 Jason Taylor season. He almost lost his leg playing with swelling in his leg. That was a 6-11 or 6-6. It was a 6-11 set. Well, he only won 6 games that year, and he played all the way through. Almost lost his leg. I don't want to hear that he's got a bad wrist. He's supposed to be a leader. He's getting paid huge amounts of money. He's supposed to be a star. To me, his character is no good. There's a reason he got let go from KC. And, you know, I mean, I don't know about the drops. He's got some, it's not the drops. For me, it's the big drops. Like he drops touchdowns and the critical, like the fumble against KC and the contested catch this year. It's not the drops. A drop like during the course of a game you'd have. It just they seem to be clutch ones, and he doesn't really work with contested catches. And so he's got to get caught pretty clean. And I think that's the biggest problem because when you got your cover too high and the way to play, they drop their cushion on Waddle from like 5.8 to like or 6 to 4.8 this year. And so they just totally gunned on Hill. And then they said, we're going to test Waddle and see what he could do. And he couldn't do it. And it's not all their fault per se, but Waddle, I think, really showed less. But at least he's a good guy. And he's going to be out there. To me, you need good guys. You need leaders. You need warriors. You need people who are about the team. And Hill, I just don't think he is, you know. So that's my biggest problem. And he's too much money.
No, I agree. Yeah. You know, I agree. Too much money. He's a problem child. And I don't believe one iota what Chris Greer said. We had, productive conversations and all this bull crap. And he's committed to the Miami Dolphins. He's coming back. Awesome. Yeah, right. Okay.
Did you hear? I think it was Drew Rosenhaus said like.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, he said, well, I never heard that he didn't want to get traded or something like that. It's still in there. You come on.
Yeah,
I think change your Twitter image and with Brown and put your face on it. It's a lot of work. I'm sure he pays it, you know, or whatever. But
of course. But yeah, I think the best thing that could happen to this football team, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, trade him.
Oh, definitely.
Trade him. Crazy. Get him out. Get him out of here. Trade him, and I think that might put Mike McDaniel in a position where he's going to have to change this offense up.
Well, the problem is I don't think they're going to because Chris Greer needs to win, and so does Mike McDaniel. And if you pull Hill out, then you're going to lose your leverage. If they don't have the leverage, they can't run this offense because the cheat motion's kind of been spied up a little bit more. You notice the cheat motion's kind of slowed down. And so that means McDaniel would have to do a total renovation because look, all they're going to do, if you pull Hill out, you got Washington, Jonnu, and Waddle. You can run single high safeties, double Waddle, and then bring more guys up in the box to kill the screens and blitz and take care of whatever you want. Who are you going to get that speed unless you find some miracle guy in the draft? And you got so many needs. And if they don't have a good season, man, their goose is cooked. So I don't see Chris Greer doing anything magnanimous for the future of the team. And I think he's going to try to save his skin.
Yeah.
They should trade him.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless they can maybe get a player for him or something, but I don't know.
They should be able to get a second maybe next year or something, or maybe even a third, a second and a third. I don't know.
The whole offense will totally collapse without him. And it's already collapsed with him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, man.
I know they are. Dolphins are cooked, DS, but from Greer's standpoint, he's got there's no way he can have a letdown season. There's no way.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do some crazy stuff.
Did you see have you seen the schedule that was released?
Yeah,
our
it's not
schedule.
too terrible. For
Well,
the away games were that's the one. I mean, they got a tough schedule at home, but there's a bunch of away games that were, quote unquote manageable. I don't know if we can manage them, but I mean, they got Washington at home, they've got Pittsburgh at home, they've got Ravens at home, but I think the road schedule is a little bit easier. They had like Panthers on the road. They had I can't remember the whole schedule, but I don't think it was terrible.
I don't have it with me, but I was looking at it in last year. I think I was on your show, Ace Per Head, when I said I think I'll say the Miami Dolphins were going to go 10-7, and but I think there was a chance that they could go 8-9, and they did. And you gave me a face like, what? 8-9? And they nailed it. But right on. They nailed it right on 8-9. But I'll do that again this year. I'll go looking over the schedule and everything. And I don't do that. It's premature to do that now.
We don't even know what this team is. We got no team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'll wait till the team is put together, maybe a week or two before the first game, and then I'll give those predictions. But to me, Curtis, that schedule looks pretty rough, man. To me.
At home, it looks rough. I think if you had flipped it and take those away games and put them home and put those home games away, it would be brutal.
Yeah. And we got to wait too, talking about next year, we got to wait too, see where the Jets are at, who they hire as a head coach, who New England hires as a head coach.
Oh, they're going to get Vrabel, I bet, or Ben Johnson.
I think they will get, I think they're looking more towards like Vrabel and Flores. Can you imagine if Flores went to the Jets?
I see this whole thing out. I was so surprised. I was almost disappointed in Fitzpatrick because he was talking.
Yeah, me too.
He's totally right. But so ask yourself, what made the change? Why did he change? What happened? What was the context? What was going on in the background? Look at Tua. Even nice guy Tua has gotten a little bit of chippy after a while. I mean, they forced Tua in. They forced Tua in, and without him even making the call, they got rid of his OC at the end of the season. He said, "I expect everyone back," and then a fake Twitter is out, and they're saying he got fired, so then he quits. Then they cut Van Noy, ship out Flowers, and let Karras walk. And then you got your owner in the background. Just imagine you're a young guy from Brooklyn, and you're a head coach for the first time. And then your owner's telling you to tank. You don't tank. You come up with one of the biggest wins, knocking the Patriots out in week 17 at home in their house. And then you're getting grief, So I think I think he made mistakes. I'm sure he alienated people, but some of those guys, I'm sure, were cutting him. I'm sure some of those coaches knew that he was getting fired and they were looking to stay over. You know what I mean? Like remember how bad he was? And then also Nick Xavier said he's a player's coach. And Robert Hunt liked him. Van Ginkel liked him. There were plenty of players that liked him. I was very surprised. I think Fitzpatrick was unfair, and I think he was a little bitter. But I don't think he really even maybe understands the whole deal. Like, who put Tua in 2020 and leaking it to the media before he could even tell the players? Like, who did that? That's the person you need to focus on. So I think he'll be a great coach.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's learned. I think he's learned a little bit, with the experience he had coaching the defense there, the Minnesota Vikings, and from his past experiences with the Miami Dolphins organization as well. And I believe he's going to be a really good coach.
Yeah. Chris, he didn't run. He didn't run Minka Fitzpatrick out of here. Have you ever heard of a kid in his second year saying, "I'm not doing that," and having his mom put stuff up on Twitter? Greer should benched his behind. And if you even go to the interview, Minka said Greer knew how to do it right. What do you do it right? You bench that guy. What are you talking about? He went to Pittsburgh and he had to do half the duties he was asked to do anyway.
Yeah.
He didn't run him out of here. Are you kidding me? He wanted the kid to be great. He wanted to be a guy who can come up in a box. He could play all over the place, be his rover guy. And there was one or two seasons where their free safety went down. And he did the same duty he was asked to do here with Flores. I disagree on that. Sorry, Chris. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of hype. You should have benched him. I have never heard of a rookie in his second year saying, I'm not doing that. And then them shipping him out. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely more to it than that. So let me before I let you go, Curtis, let me ask you a little bit about the defense. How do you now let me put this into context for everybody. And this goes for the offense and the defense. Okay. Remember, okay, we had the easiest schedule in football. We had the
Oh, yeah,
easiest
I know.
schedule in football. So, you know, and we
with a
played like
semi-healthy Tehran and Campbell who are going to be gone.
exactly. So my question is, how did you feel now? Anthony Weaver, I want to get to the defense. Anthony Weaver might be gone. You got an interview with
Yeah,
New
maybe.
Orleans Saints, I believe. Maybe. I know Frank Smith has been he's getting interviewed as well. Or not Smith, Bevel. Bevel's getting an interview as well, the quarterback coach. So let's see how Tua takes that, right? Now, I wanted to ask you about the defense. How do you feel about this defense? I mean, we've brushed on it a little bit, but do you think this defense was overrated, or do you think it was good as everyone is saying it was?
I mean, there's a lot of context to it. You know, we played a lot of bad teams. But I thought Weaver did a pretty good job. But we had Campbell and Sealer and Chop, I thought played really well. Brooks, I thought played really well. You had Ramsey and Fuller for most of the season. You know, so I thought they were decent. I thought they were good. I mean, Sealer and Campbell are amazing together. But, you know, now you strip that out. You had a lot of studs. But, I mean, we had played a lot of duds on offense. You know, we played a lot of poor offenses. So, you know, like I hear a lot of people, it's very confusing. They're like, you know, there's something wrong with our team. Like 1 week the offense plays well, and then 1 week the defense plays. We can't just. We'll look at the matchups. Usually, you know, if the defense played an easier time, they did better. You know, we played a lot of imbalanced teams. You know, I think that was really the main reason we were imbalanced. I mean, there was some turnovers, like some games where we had like turnovers on offense, a lot of missed tackles on defense. But I think most of it was, if you look at the trenches, when we played a good offensive line, for the most part, the D struggled. And we played a good defensive line with a semi-defense, decent secondary. The offense struggled. It was really about lack of controlling the trenches. You know, Chop was really good, but he struggled in the run game. But, you know, we made a lot of hay. Agba had a pretty good year. Sealer was always good, and Campbell was really good.
Yeah. Sealer had a solid year. I mean, he played. If you look at his, at least stat wise, if you look at his stats, he was always been consistent. He's been a consistent, solid defensive tackle for us. You know, blue collar guy and everything. Chop Robinson, the verdict is still out for me on Chop Robinson. I mean, I saw some positive with him. You know, I'm just not sold on him yet. Calais Campbell is going to be he's going to be missed if he decides to leave.
It's going to be devastating.
Yeah, just
both
in the
locker room and talent.
Yeah, leadership standpoint, he's definitely going to be missed big time. But yeah, so we got a lot of work to do here in this off season, and I know somebody mentioned in the chat it should be eventful. It's going to be an eventful off season, and I think it is. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and I know I'm going to be like I'm just going to be watching out and keeping my eyes open and seeing what Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel does in this off season. I know we got the draft coming up, and we got some
those two.
Yeah, and let's see if Weaver leaves, if Bevel leaves, you know, if some other coaches.
Hey, there's Frozen Fin. Hey, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, I saw him in there. Oh, let me say thank you to everybody that's joined the chat tonight. And Mark Jones is in there. Christopher, I know you've been in there. Lo-Fi, good to see you again. And we've had I saw Raphael Courtwright. Raphael Courtwright's been in here. A lot of folks in here, and I appreciate all of you for joining us tonight. We couldn't do this without you. I really do appreciate you joining. DSG label, you as well. But just do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, share with your friends and your family. So appreciate it, man. Curtis, I'm going to let you go, man. I'm going to land this plane. It's been awesome to talk with you. I got you on here for that specific reason, to get your takes on this team as a whole, and specifically the offensive line. We kind of beat that to death. And now it's just up to Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel to do the necessary moves.
It's a scary thought.
So, it is scary. It is scary. But again, guys, thank you again. Curtis, thanks for joining. And where can they find you again before I let you go?
You can find me on the YouTube at aceperhead.com. It's a weird name, but it's my sponsors. Check me out there. I do my videos, and I'm at Fins News 1 on Twitter. I'm trying to work that thing too, but mostly just YouTube.
All right, man. Thanks.
I got to get my marketing down better. I don't have a good jazzy.
There you go, man.
Like you, man.
You got to market, man. You got to market. All right, guys. Thank you. And appreciate you again. God bless. And Dolphins #1, baby. Dolphins #1.